All right, there we go. So we were just what were we just talking? Oh yeah, alpha male um, influencers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, um, because yeah, we were just saying how we like. I think we both came to the same conclusion. How it was um, like basically a lot of them are grifters.
Yeah.
I think people like David Goggins are genuine. Um, and I'd go maybe even as far to say as like, I'd say Andrew Tate is probably, there's probably some monetary
Oh, there definitely is,
like
but that
stuff.
doesn't like just because there's a monetary incentive for them to kind of drill down into the portion of the audience that listens to them, doesn't mean that they don't have a real intent to
Yeah.
help people. I because exactly, you see that Jordan Peterson gets a lot of flack for saying what he does, but you can tell that the dude genuinely does want people to like wake up in the morning, clean your room, and like he really believes in that. And does cleaning your room necessarily like help everybody? I think it helps a lot more than it wouldn't help. Um, but like sometimes people have bigger issues than just a clean room. Like I've dealt with and helped a lot of people, like my own dad being disabled, that it's like, bro, like cleaning his own room is like, that's a challenge. Like that guy can barely take care of himself, period. Right. And, um, and that's not to say that cleaning your room wouldn't help.
Yeah.
And it would be a good thing to start on, but like I mean, as a clinician, he probably knows that like this will help the majority of people, but it's not going to help everybody.
I forgot to ask you, what kind of like, because I know you said you're like I've heard you say before, like your dad's crazy and stuff, but like what kind of like crazy is he? Like
Oh,
what's he got?
well, specifically, he has been diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
Okay.
Um, but on top of that, he is very physically disabled, like legally
Oh,
blind, has had a shattered pelvis, two shoulder surgeries, two hip replacements. Like the poor dude is
did he just go at it hard
messed
or is
up.
he just made of glass?
Oh yeah, he went at it hard. Like the
Yeah.
dude is not made out of glass. Like even with replaced shoulders and
Yeah.
like just all of that stuff, like he still does more crap than I see regular people do who are fine. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yikes, because that guy has an insane amount of willpower. And that's why, like, when people are like, "Oh, you just need to like mind over matter," like put yourself in a space where you can, where you can like mentally succeed and stuff. Um, I have a very different opinion on that, because on the one hand, yes, it's true that like when you have your mind in the right spot, when you have your things aligned so that the friction of life doesn't prevent you from succeeding, then you can be successful. But I've also seen firsthand how systemic problems can build up to have an undue effect on people's lives
Are
to where
you
they
talking about
don't
the
succeed.
like pull yourself up by your bootstraps
Yeah,
thing?
the pull
Okay.
yourself up by your bootstraps, like it gets pushed by a lot of like self-help books. It gets
Yeah.
pushed by a lot of those, um like there is a crowd of menfluencing that is that it's pull yourself up by your bootstraps and like you can succeed no matter what, because a lot of it's kind of true. Like
Yeah.
there's, to a certain degree, like if you just give up, you won't succeed. right?
You got to trademark Menfluence.
Menfluence. I'm pretty sure it is already trademarked. I swear I've heard it before. I swear I've heard it before
Let's see.
somewhere.
I'm gonna see if there's
Menfluencers. Yeah, you got to Google that.
I'm gonna see if there's a hashtag on Instagram.
Oh, I bet there is. I am not that original.
Dude, that'd be. Let's see.
It's a catchy word though.
Yeah, it is. Let's see. Is this? Oh, this is the Discover. Here we go. Gonna see all my art stuff. Like, I don't know. Guys are always. I shouldn't say always, but there's a lot of. Oh wait, no, it is gonna be search. Okay. There's a lot of people who like
I didn't know you were a Rule 35 artist.
Rule 34.
Rule 34. There
I
you go.
exposed myself by correcting you.
Oh no!
I am not. What? Okay, I searched up Menfluence, and then there's a first thing is a watercolor of a woman in a corset. And then
I'm glad you said that was the first one. There's also some other weird ones up there.
Yeah, what I need is to search by hashtags. Let's see. Instagram's website is weird, and I don't have the app on my phone. Oh well.
I'm pretty sure it's not my word.
Yeah. I mean, still, it's a good one.
It is a good one.
But I've seen like memes of what was I saying? Oh yeah, I've seen memes of like guys being nervous about showing like the women around them, like their Instagram feed. And I always wondered like what that was, because mine is always just like art and stuff.
Oh.
But I think they're referring to like people getting like straight up murdered in like workplace accidents and stuff. Like, have you seen those videos?
Yeah, I mean, I see those like animated Chinese ones that's like guy, like, I don't know, Tal will show me those ones, and I'm like, oh, these are hilarious.
I've seen the animated ones, but I've also seen the real ones where they're like straight up. Like, I saw this welder was welding on a gas line.
Okay.
And
it was like
on a
lit
platform, and they did not turn the gas off. And yeah, you just see like a wall of fire like shoot up, and then like when the fire like dissipates, it's just this body scorched in flames, and he just falls from the platform. I'm like,
oh, she is.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's China for you, man. Like just nuts. But
that's what they mean when they say decreasing regulation. I get awful worried about that sometimes when they're like, there's too many regulations. I'm like, not if I'm the one working. I don't want some guy to be like, get up on there, OSHA's been disbanded. I'm like, oh,
yeah, no,
I need to change careers.
Yeah, I've seen what happens like with the power lines. It's
a little spooky sometimes.
Yeah, you just see someone like barely touch a line, and then you just hear this just the pop, and I'm like, oh, it's like, yeah, that pop was taking its life.
Wow. Yeah, they're like, safety's no joke. You know.
Yeah.
Always be safe.
No, yeah, back to like the willpower thing. I like, yeah, I think there's different aspects to the conversation for sure. I definitely don't think it's a black and white, like this way or that way. And I think you kind of hit it on the head where there are like systemic issues. And yeah, there's also like, but I've also like seen things where I shouldn't say I've seen them. I've heard people like tell their stories. And they definitely weren't lying, where it's like their backs are broken and they're just like so stubborn that my own family, my own I think my great-great-grandfather or great uncle, like, yeah, had his back broken, like lived through it, and
just Bruce Lee'd himself into walking again.
It was like, yeah, like just, yeah, like did not like did not refuse to die, did not refuse to not be bedridden. They were like, "Oh, you're not going to walk again." And he's like, "No, I refuse that." And just like, yeah, within a few months he was walking again. I'm like,
Dang, that's crazy.
so it's um there is a willpower
There certainly is an aspect
thing,
of that. I would agree.
and but you're also right with your environment greatly manipulates you.
Yeah, there's the book by Dr. Gabor Mate and his son, The Myth of Normal, and he talks about it's more in the realm of child development and stuff like that that he's talking about that, but he says that our environment affects us before we affect the environment, right? Because the
Yeah.
environment existed before we did, right? And that can be interpreted a lot of ways. First there's the evolutionary aspect of like how do we react to things because our our stomach is our second brain. It's going to affect the way that we think. So when we're a little bit hungry, we might be a little bit short-tempered with people because like our stomach is telling you, you need to eat. You need to figure out how to get food in your stomach, and that can put us into a stress response mode rather than
Yeah.
a parasympathetic nervous system mode, to where we're more creative and patient and things like that. So yeah, exactly. Like there's a lot of different things to balance. One of the things, like specifically with my dad, um, a lot of the difficulties were that he was very, very independent. He was very, very hardworking. And unfortunately, I don't think he had enough of a support system. Like, my mom's even said a lot of times before that, like, dad had the ideas for, like, man, like, if we could get our properties and then like rent them out and like be on top of it um, to where like because he originally did that for construction. He would like flip houses, and he would do lots of different construction projects and improve people's places and do different contracts and such. And he had the skills for it, and he was
Yeah.
extremely talented. But the trouble was like when he got hurt, he was always a little bit like mentally unstable. The bipolar stuff, he'd work 3 days like solid, day and night, to get a project done, and he like people would have these rave reviews about him because like he'd just go until the project was done.
He would just do
like
it. Yeah.
yeah, just kind of like they say like the like straight up autism mode when you're like oh yeah, like hyper focused on something. He'd kind of do that with his projects. And with his bipolar stuff, he'd get in a manic spell and he'd just be like all about like, oh, I got to get this job and I'm going to do this project and it's going to be awesome for you. And man, people would look at it and they were like, holy crap, like, how did you even do this in such a short time span and such quality work? They'd be super impressed, and super happy with it, and then other days, you could barely get out of bed and, like it was
man.
hard.
Yeah.
And the trouble was like he kind of knew what he wanted for, his business, like being able to kind of get on top of his business rather than in it, to where he could have some rentals and stuff, and actually had a lot of that going with some of his brothers and stuff. And there was a lot of other stuff that went down with legal issues, and his brother ended up handling a lot of that stuff, basically became his own lawyer for getting a lot of that figured out. And my dad wasn't quite that technical, and kind of backed away from the like large rental units. But he even had like we had two houses during the financial crisis.
Oh, wow.
And we actually had them both rented out. And unfortunately, my mom wasn't as savvy when it came to like rental or tenants rights or any of that stuff, because basically what happened is these people were renting out our other house and they didn't pay.
Wow.
So
Oh,
like and they needed that money because they had two mortgages, And and in the middle of the financial crisis, you can't just like sell your house and like
Yeah.
anyway, my mom wasn't savvy enough to really have been able to scrape by. I think my dad could have figured out a way, but at that point in time he was just like really
What did she
under.
do in that situation?
We lost the house.
To the bank?
Yep, bank
Wow.
repossessed it. Called us every day with like I remember as a kid, we had like our home house phone, right? And like sometimes, we'd get, calls and they'd be like, "Oh, can mom come into work today?" or whatever. So like sometimes we'd be like we'd answer the phone, we'd be like "Oh, mom, it's for you, the hospital's asking if you want to like, pick up an extra shift because they're short staffed or stuff." Um but then like sometimes we'd call and be like they'd be basically they'd ask for my mom's name and be like, "Oh yeah, she's here," and it's like who's calling? It's like, "Oh, it's the bank." Yeah, and she'd be like, "I'm not here." like,
Yeah.
like, "Oh, she's sleeping." So sure, I can't bother you. And so it's like, oh crap. Like as a kid, I didn't really fully get the magnitude of like going bankrupt and having that like ruin your credit score and like it was like a really difficult thing. Luckily we did have our other house that was cheaper and closer into town, and it was a real piece of work. I mean, you've seen it now, and we've put countless hours of work into that thing.
Yeah.
It's still got some issues, but
It's beautiful. That
yeah, we've put a
that
lot of work into it because
countertop is like I love that countertop so
oh
much.
yeah,
The thick wood and
yeah,
it's
a lot of that stuff was stuff we learned from our dad.
yeah.
Like that, like uh, me, Kachel, and Talon, kind of being the older ones. We saw a lot of like dad still being capable of doing stuff, so we kind of reaped the benefit of like we'd seen him do these projects and stuff like that. Like I remember as a kid, being like 2 years old, he'd like set me to work, with a spatula and mud and be like, "All right, like you find each of the screws, in the drywall, and you just like mud each one
And
up." And like
you
he showed
just
me how to
flatten
do
it.
it. And as a kid, that was like the greatest thing. It was like, "Oh, I'm having fun with this mud," but like also we'd see like dad doing taping the seams and getting the ceilings on and stuff like that because we were in there and having fun with dad, but you kind of get exposed to it just by being there that you kind of don't get to see when you're just not a part of that or
Oh yeah. No, I mean,
yeah.
I remember I came across that video of like them having school for learning how to lay mortar down. And I was watching it and I was like kind of confused because like I understand like welding or plumbing school and stuff, but
Hmm.
like construction to me is just almost like second nature because that's what I grew up around. And so
Hmm.
I was like watching it and I'm like, this guy doesn't know how to lay mortar down. And then it's like, I'm like, there's a school for that, you know? And then I'm like, whoa, like that, like, and then it just kind of made me realize like how fortunate I was where like you and me, like we've grew up with that where we are able to like, yeah, just be around it. Like as a daily thing. My uncle even got me familiar with like kind of balancing pay for your employees
Oh yeah.
because we would work together as cousins. I mean, we did roofs and painting projects together, and it was like 4 customers, and so he'd be like, "All right," he's like, "Here's how much," and he was very transparent with how much like he was paid for the project and the stuff, and he's like, "All right," he's
Yeah,
like, "I'm
I
paying you $12 an hour." He's like, "And you worked." He's like, "You worked, X and a half amount of hours," and he's like, "And they worked this much," and then like he balanced the sheet and stuff, and it's all like, he's like, "Okay," he's like, "And here's how much I was paid." I'm like, "Whoa," I'm like, "That's a lot of money." He's like, "Yeah, but look how much the roof tiles cost, and look how much the nails cost, and
Yeah,
the
the bill of
supplies.
materials,
I'm like,
and then
oh,
you start to see some of the other stuff like the the
and look how much I'm paying you guys,
yeah,
So,
exactly. Like there's the labor costs that come out of exactly like paying you guys, and then there's also like gas and other consumables and things like that.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, exactly. Like you kind of get a glimpse behind the curtain when you're exposed to that you don't otherwise see. And exactly like when you have that experience, you can look at it and you're like, man, like how could anyone not know this? But because it's really hard to put yourself in the shoes of someone who doesn't know something
yeah,
when you know it, right?
right.
It's hard to even fathom being there. It's really useful if you can remember a point in time when you were there. But yeah, exactly. Especially like when you're a kid, you're not as knowledgeable of like, oh, I learned this
Yeah.
because you're just like, everybody knows that. Like, didn't you grow up with this?
I think that's
And
the disconnect that boomers are having right now with our generation, where they're like, oh, like Gen Zers are so lazy, all this stuff, and it's all like, dude, like it's like we do go out and get jobs, and it's all like, and with the money we make, like we cannot support ourselves by ourselves. Like we can, I mean, you could maybe get like a really crappy apartment with like then but yeah, like you'd have to have a roommate, and it's like, and then yeah, like most of the time you're just scraping by. I'm like, it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
pretty
I,
nuts.
I would say, and that's kind of like what I was pointing out is that like there are systemic issues that can build into personal issues. And so like back to my like our situation, like there's a few things that like with my dad's bipolar disorder, man, there was some really hard times with it and stuff, because like dealing with him as a person who has bipolar, like sometimes that is not fun and not easy.
Mm-hmm.
um but like there was a few times when like I said, the bootstraps thing, that I was like, to some degree it's kind of baloney, because like my dad got a job like as a bus driver. He was completely disabled, like
Yeah.
had no business having a job, and the guy got himself a job, like first as a parts driver for Napa, and then later as a bus driver, and was working and like could barely get in and out of the vehicle.
Jeez.
And you're like, and this guy is like working harder than anybody else. It was like just kind of mind blowing. And it was because like he was our dad and he was going to support his family, like
Yeah.
that was his mentality. And I really respect that, and I'm really proud of my dad for like having that mentality. But at the same time, like you kind of need to recognize like when you like can't and probably shouldn't be doing stuff like that. Um, and and I actually noticed a big difference when my uncle was finally able to, like, he, like I said, he was kind of the a little more technically savvy and stuff. And my mom kind of struggled with that. It wasn't really until I got older and was kind of more aware of the situation and more like kind of in a better place to be able to assist and really understand all the nuances of everything, that I was able to help in more of that manner. But my uncle is the one who helped get him on disability. And there was like a lot of times where, man, we had hard times where our dad like was not fun to be around him.
Mm-hmm.
Just the argumentative stuff. When he'd get in a manic cycle,
Yeah.
it was not fun at all. And I noticed a lot of things got better when he got on disability. And part of that was that he would kind of like drive himself up into this like hype cycle. A lot of times they would prescribe him Adderall for for the depression, you know, to kind of get you up out of it. But man, like, you know, then he takes 5 Adderall, and then he's a
Adderall?
crazy person, can't sleep for 4 days.
Adderall for depression?
Yeah, to like, because
To like focus on other stuff?
Adderall is prescription meth. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it would like I'm not sure how how he convinced the doctors to do it, but let me tell you, like people that are in those sort of like pits, man, they know how like they know what works. Like I've had some friends that are addicts and stuff, and they say like that addiction never really goes away, like because you know how you feel when you're on the stuff, and it's like it's empowering, you know. And my dad said as much about like the Adderall, is that like, man, like when you are that depressed and you want to kill yourself, like you'll literally do anything to get out of it. Like to lie to get some Adderall, of course.
Yeah.
Like your life is horrible, it's a nightmare, of course you want out, you know. And it's really hard because like there is a response that like a lot of things in a lot of ways their life kind of gets better when, you know, they're able to kick themselves out of the depression, so they're able to get back to work, they have an income again, you know, they feel like they have a little more respect because they're providing for their family, you know. They like it kind of does like, oh, I bootstrapped myself up like at the cost of, you know, doing some prescription meth, like woo. And you're like maybe there's another issue here. Maybe the issue is that you feel like your only worth is as a provider for your family. Like can't you just be our dad, like and be normal, and like because really our mom was working this whole time, you know, and we had enough to get by. It wasn't fancy or anything, but like we were okay. Like we were making it. Um and and like and when my dad got on disability and he had kind of an income and a degree of dignity like as a disabled person, like that he still felt like he was contributing, that he still felt like he was worth something, like that actually helped kind of him kind of deal with the depression a little bit better, because he felt like he had, you know, value in that sense, even if he didn't have like the value in being able to do things. And it was like really difficult for him as being someone who was so successful and was able to do so much stuff, and then not being able to do anything, like can't lift your arm above your head.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like
that's kind of your purpose as a man.
yeah,
Is
it
like
kind of is.
it's your you I mean, if you're single and have no kids, like you're still going to try, and you still have this instinct within you to have a purpose, to do something. Like I like the most it's really interesting, and I think this was a pretty big defining moment in my life, was when the pandemic hit. um, I was making way more money than I was ever making working for sitting on my ass, because the government was paying me too, because my workplace laid me off due to the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So the government was paying me $800 a week to do nothing. And, you know, not going to lie, first 2 months, maybe 3 months, freaking best time of my life, man. Not get to do whatever I wanted. Like, was making good money for doing nothing. I just drew and uh, played video games all day. Like, just, man, I'm telling you, 8 months down the road, that was also like the most depressed I've ever been in my life.
Wow.
At the same time, like, so, like, it was because I had no purpose. Like, period. I'm like, it's not like, it wasn't even like, I didn't have to do anything. Cause like at first that's how it started out. I'm like, I don't have to do anything. But then it turned into, I have nothing to do because I have everything that I can do.
Yeah.
And so, like, yeah, recently when I quit my job because I had to go to school, like, yeah, school is kind of like a purpose for me. But like on my off time, like, that's why I'm making sure that I'm keeping myself busy doing something because I'm like, I have to have some sort of purpose. And yeah, working with metal is like, it just works for me so well. I just understand it, and I love it. But yeah, when I was making the most amount of money so far, I'm hoping to make more than that later
Yeah.
down the road. But when I was making the most money in my life was when I was the most depressed, and we need that as men. And then like with the pill thing, have you ever seen the movie Limitless?
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that like put me in a crazy like dangerous line of thinking when I saw that movie, because I was like, I was watching it and I'm like, that pill's amazing, because I watched the movie, not the show. And I'm like watching Bradley Cooper, like take this pill, and like he's super productive. He wrote his
Oh wait,
like,
wait, are we talking about a different movie? I thought you were talking about Viagra.
I need to. I can't get hard for my lady,
Oh no.
man. No, the
An entire movie about that. Oh man, that'd be rated R.
dude, like it's just like I was watching him, like like he's like, I cleaned up my apartment in a day, and then like and then he wrote that book in like a few hours because he was so focused. It was essentially like Adderall on crack, because it was like
Yeah.
recalling memories that he had from like college and stuff. And I was like watching it, I'm like, dude, like I wish that pill was real, man. And then I'm like, if there was a pill that was like that, like I would totally take it. And then I realized, I'm like, that's a pretty bad way of thinking, because there is never going to be a pill that does that for you without dangerous side effects. I mean, even in the movie, it was showing how he was like, not like it wasn't that he was getting addicted, but it was doing something to his head where he was like blacking out.
Yeah, yeah,
And
because there was side effects, in the movie, but that was like the big like plot twist at the end was
yeah,
like, I used it so much I figured out a way to make it perfect so
yeah,
there's no side effects, and I was like, that's actually a pretty good plot
where
twist,
he
but
microdosed, and then like, yeah, he basically microdosed where he didn't even need it anymore. Like at the
oh
end, right? Like I think that's
no,
what it
I
was. He didn't
I
even
thought it
need it
was
at
that
the
he
end, right?
figured out a way to make it perfect. Oh, maybe it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too. It's been like 4 years since I've seen it. So, um, but yeah, I was like, but then I also had like the epiphany where I'm like, if that's possible to achieve that state of mind, I'm like, the best way to achieve it would be through meditation and prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because, well, through God, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, our minds are capable of some incredible things,
Yeah, they really
and
are.
I think we just need to take time of self-reflection and meditation for that. Not to sound like a hippie, but
Yeah, and that's like I think what you're saying with that, like, to some degree, like the bootstrap stuff, like people listen to that and it kind of has some merit, because to some degree, like your attitude determines your reality, right? Your
yeah,
perception is your reality.
yeah,
And and there's kind of a weird balance with that, that on the one hand, um like if things aren't going your way, like it's kind of up to you to change it. But on the other hand, like you can't change everything,
mm-hmm.
like like, so that's why I think like meditation is so important, because you kind of have to be at peace with a lot of things. Like, 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 my dad being able to be at peace with, his situation would not have fixed his shoulder or his hip or
Yeah.
his pelvis or any of the things that were like physically wrong with him, but it might have brought him a little more peace with the status of how things are. And so
And
yeah, there's definitely merits to both.
well, my take on the systemic thing too is I don't even think it's so much your situation. I think it's more your upbringing. Yeah, because someone who's some I don't know, it's hard to say because I had a pretty rough upbringing myself, but I didn't let it like keep me down. I didn't because I could have easily used a lot of the stuff that I went through as an excuse to just not be a good, unproductive person.
Yeah.
I could have easily been like, oh, I was oh, I was because I was raised by a single mom, and then like the stepdads that I did have were like not great. Like, oh, like, my stepdad beat me and blah, 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 blah. Like, oh, my life sucks. Oh, like, oh, I moved around, you know, from place to place to place, and that wasn't good for me. But like, if I just let it keep me down, like, then I let it keep me down. Like,
Yeah.
so I think it is a choice. So I don't know. It's
Yeah,
hard to
yeah,
say,
it's
but
definitely a choice, but like,
I don't think it's in your environment though either, because a person
well,
who's
the
also brought up right will
mhm.
also like take the situation that they're in and um like persevere through it. They'll they'll
To
rise
some
above.
degree,
Yeah.
yes. Um, but they need some opportunities. That's what I mean by systemic with it, is that luckily for me, in a lot of ways, I had a lot of um, support networks that a lot of other people don't have. My parents moved up to Alaska from Arizona, so they didn't have grandparents around. They didn't have like
Right.
there. It was just them. So when my dad got hurt, he had to rely on my mom, and my mom, she went to work and she helped take care of the kids, but there was some bad blood with you know um, the kind of the whole situation with one of my dad's brothers that was up here, that he was our nearest family, up in Wasilla, and um like there's really no support from that aspect of it. So uh shoot, like there's a book I read not too long ago. I've got it on my phone, on my Kindle. I can't remember what the name of it is, but
What's it about? Like what's the premise and the message of it?
um the I is it The Psychology of Money? Like,
You're
I
asking the wrong guy.
okay. Well, in it, the guy is talking about how it's not so much about figuring out some secret. It's about like mitigating your losses, like making it so where like the devastating effects aren't as devastating. It's about having safety nets. Because like the S&P 500, if you're invested into it, like it goes up most of the time. But man, if you sell everything when it drops 40%, you're toast. If you
Yeah.
sold at that, like when it drops down, like good luck getting back. But like if you're able to, um, if you have enough liquidity to not have to sell so that you can wait it out, the market has always corrected, and it's always like it's
Gone
always
up.
gone down and it goes back up.
Yeah.
So like as long as you can wait it out. But like for instance, like with my parents and losing that other house, because we had the two houses at the time, and if we had been able to keep it rented, we could have outlasted it, like, because it wasn't until like 2009 or something that all really sunk and stuff. So like we kind of made it through like a lot of the really rough parts, but like not all of it, and it's like, man, if you can hold out until things start working again, then and you have enough liquidity to get by, like you'll find a lot of this stuff. Now you have a second house and you're getting cash flow from it, so that frees it up to where you don't need to work as much. Now you have an asset that's worth money, so if you do sell it, that you can pay down your other debts and reduce your costs. Like it kind of creates this upward cycle, right?
Right.
But if you run into something that just totally destroys you, man, you're back to like square one. And that's what I mean by like the systemic stuff, is having safety nets to where, like, if you get hurt and you're able to be taken care of, then it's not as devastating. Like, because one of the things that I find incredibly spooky about the United States' healthcare system isn't like, oh, private healthcare or public healthcare, or like this, that, or the other thing. It is the fact that our insurance is almost always completely tied to our workplace. Because my dad had this, like, because he was working up on the slope for one of these big projects, and there was some issue with like toxic gas, and anyway he breathed it in and like had to have some like throat stuff, surgery stuff, and anyway there, like, the blame gets shuttled around because oh, it wasn't my fault that this happened. And anyway, he had to deal with all this court stuff over it in order to get his like insurance to like pay for it, because guess what, the company that was at fault, that was hiring him, it's their insurance, so they have to pay out, so they don't want to pay because they don't want to admit that they screwed up, so like,
they don't want to pay
because then it opens up, because if it's like, well, we screwed up, so we got to pay for your insurance stuff, that also opens them up to a lawsuit, so they don't want to admit they did anything wrong.
A lot of the annoying rules are all around liability. Like all the small annoying rules, it's like, why is that there? It's all like, oh, the company doesn't want to be liable. It's like,
yep. So anyway, the big spooky thing is that, like, so with that, he was out of work, and then if you're not working, you can't have your insurance through the company.
Oh,
so
that's messed up.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous that that's the way that it works. So if you get injured at work and then you can't work anymore, then you can't have insurance anymore through your stuff, or you use Cobra, which is way more expensive. And it's just like, what? Like, why are we doing it that way? Like, at least our insurance
really
should, like, if exactly, like, so when I was working at Global, it was the credit union was really like the ones responsible. Like, they were kind of self-insured, I guess, to some degree, that like it's those funds, are split between everyone that's using it. And technically that's how all insurances are. It's just whether it's run through an insurance company or, this, that, or the other thing. Anyway, so like the cost stuff is split out one way or the other. And
generally, well, my understanding is generally it's pretty, like, businesses are pretty good about workman's comp. Like, if you do get injured, I mean, that's a pretty common joke.
It's become a lot better these days.
Places, like,
but
I
there's
hope I get hit by the forklift so I could get workman's comp. Like, so.
But workman's comp is different from.
Oh, it's not insurance.
From insurance.
Oh.
Yeah. So insurance is like, hey, I need to, exactly, like my kid had their appendix like go bad, and they have appendicitis, their appendix taken out, that's like a $30,000 surgery, or more. I can't remember.
It's 30 grand.
Oh yeah, it's insane how much it is. So if you don't have
I'll just
insurance,
look up
like
a
have fun
YouTube
paying
video
that.
and do it at home.
Please don't.
I feel there. Let's see. I wonder if there's some sort of procedures you could do at home.
Probably not too many.
I don't think a lot. I mean,
like
if you have enough numbing medication, you could probably pull out
you're
your
gonna
own
numb
wisdom.
yourself, and I'm gonna work on it. Oh, I'm feeling a little sleepy.
You
I
could
made the
probably-
first 4 incisions, but
well,
I'm not feeling so great
you
anymore.
could probably pull out your kid's wisdom teeth. with,
Oh,
no, I'm just-
depending, some
the
some
tools.
some of them might be pretty easy to take out, but
yeah,
but mine were incredibly impacted. That's another one. Yeah, my wisdom teeth. Ooh, yeah,
Dude,
I need a special.
I felt the
surgeon to
teeth
take them out.
dust in my mouth for like 2 weeks after. Like when I was eating food, there would still be like bits of teeth, like yeah, like dentist, like shout out but not shout out to the dentist, like, or the orthodontist or whatever that who did that. Like, yeah, you did your job, but you did not clean out my mouth good. It was like 2 weeks after the dust was still there, and like, man, it was like
great.
you'd be eating food and like every now and again it feels like a little pebble was in your mouth. You're like, that's a piece of tooth right there, man.
Yikes.
Yeah. No. Let's see. I'm sure you could. Well, you could like take out a bullet and stuff, but like actual internal stuff. Yeah, you probably don't want to be messing around too much with that.
No. In general, you don't want surgeries in general. Like that's
take
been
out
my
a cyst.
experience.
You could take out a cyst.
Oh well, so if you watch some of those, what's that lady, Dr. Pimple Popper?
Yes, yeah.
I love that show. But like you have to remove all of like the skin, like the outer skin of the cyst or whatever. I'm not sure what the real terminology is. I am not a doctor. But you have to like remove it completely because otherwise it'll grow right back for a lot of them. Like it's actually a little more complicated than you might think at first.
It's not just cutting it open and removing it.
No, it's not just popping it. For cysts, you have to get like the skin layer out, whatever, the bag,
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't want to pop them.
You don't want to pop a cyst. Yeah, you want to get the ball out.
Yeah, you want to get like the whole ball out. And I guess there's lots of different kinds. All I know is from what I've seen on the show.
Dude, those cysts are so nasty looking. Like how they're just solid. I'm like, dude, I don't even want to know how that smells like. Because like
it probably doesn't smell.
You don't think
bad.
it doesn't smell?
No, I doubt it smells too much. Like, man,
I don't know, man.
You want stuff that smells bad? Like, go look in
isn't-
people's refrigerators.
Well, isn't it solidified pus?
Yeah, but like most of the time,
Pus smells disgusting.
yeah, but you've got to remember this is like all inside your body, so most of the time it hasn't had time to like really decay or create a much odor. It would smell if you left it out. Oh yeah, it'd turn rank quick.
Yeah.
But like most of the time it's been in your body and your body's actively fighting it. So like I'd imagine it'd smell kind of like some bad breath, like
Yeah.
But like it's kind of like you need to like bend over and smell it. And I'm not volunteering to do that. Get a nice whiff.
Oh my gosh.
Have some cottage cheese in your nose.
Oh jeez. Dude, yeah, that's like the smells like I had to deal with when my ingrown toenail was all infected. It smells disgusting. Like,
Oh, yeah, I
or
bet.
like even when I'm like upkeeping it now, because like I keep it clean, and then like every 2 months I like do a little self procedure and like cut it and take it out. But yeah, those ingrown toenails like smell disgusting.
Oh, I bet.
I'm
Like,
like-
being cooped up in a shoe all day. Yuck.
Well, it's like deep in your skin, and it's just
Yeah, it
like
gets
collecting
in
all
there.
that like
Yep.
pus and blood, and like it mixes. It's disgusting,
Totally.
dude. I was a real it's a real dickhead
Have to
one
add
time.
like a like warning flag for this episode. Like, careful. Start talking about the nasties.
Oh my gosh.
Your discretion advised.
I was a real dickhead one time to my ex, and I did the self procedure thing.
Yeah.
Or oh wait, no, it wasn't my ex, it was my sister.
Oh, yeah.
And but yeah, like I did it, and I had the little piece of toenail and I didn't throw it away yet, and like I went up right behind her. She was like scrolling through not it's basically TikTok, YouTube shorts.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
went up like right behind her and I put it right under her nose, and it was right as she breathed.
Bruh.
It was right as she breathed in, and she was like, "Oh, that's disgusting." Like just typical like dickhead older brother stuff. You're
Oh,
like,
man.
my
That is
gosh.
like...
I kind of feel bad about it, but it was funny in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment. Oh, man.
Oh
At
my
least, I remember one time my older brother, Kajal, he like hawked a loogie and was was like playing, got it on his fingers and was like, "Bleh, like I'm gonna touch it to you." Like we're in the back seat of my grandpa's truck. I was like, "I'm gonna throw up. That is so disgusting." And he was like, I'm gonna touch you with it," and I threw up in the back of my grandpa's truck. Like it was like a brand new truck too, and I was just like, on the one hand I felt like really bad, like oh man, I like threw up in grandpa's truck and stuff. And on the other hand, I was like seething over like you made me do this. Like I am not taking responsibility. Like even though like I felt bad, I was like, I can't feel bad for this because it wasn't my fault. I would not have thrown up
That's
if
the
it weren't
card
for
I would
him.
play for sure. I'd be all like, my brother was making me nauseous, man.
Like yeah, like just one of those things, like the back seat of the car, kids, you're like stop fighting back there, and next thing you know, like like puke all over the truck, like
Who cleaned it up?
like I'm sure grandpa did. I don't really remember, but like I was like
I would have made him clean it up. I would have been like, you clean it up, man.
bunch of kids being dorks, you know.
Oh my gosh, man. That's hilarious. Um dude, speaking of environments, like I've been telling you this, how I've been coming across like super racist stuff on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's crazy because I'm like, and okay, but it's pretty funny because the white supremacist like Nazi community, is that the fire?
Yeah,
Dude,
I swear I
fire
can
is
hear it
loud.
through my...
I can hear it.
Yeah, that rocket
it's
stove is
loud.
earning its name. Rocketing.
The white supremacist people, they like to use pictures of Edward Norton from American History X. Have you seen that movie?
No.
It's he plays a Nazi white supremacist guy, but they totally. So I was like, it was actually on my to watch like movie list.
Mm-hmm.
All I knew about it was that the guy was like neo-Nazi, right? And I watched it, dude. Those people completely missed the point of the movie. Like, and it wasn't even like some nuanced like message or whatever, or like subtle. No, like it was in your face, like, and they did a pretty good job of it too, because it wasn't like they couldn't make that movie today, not because it was about like Nazis and white supremacists, but just because I don't think the writers in Hollywood nowadays like have the capability to like explore other sides of ideas that they disagree with, like to the level that this movie did. Because the Nazi characters and stuff, like the main character, he's actually kind of likable. And it's not like, oh, this guy's like dumb redneck whatever. Like no, like he's actually an intelligent character. And the stuff he believes is because he like cares about his community and stuff. Like it's not like, and it's interesting because they actually have
So
some
he's like
characters.
legitimately keeping out the black people because he wants to protect his white
It's
community,
about
like
him
being
he
good.
cares about his family
Yeah, that
and stuff. And so I'm like, dude, like they really well written movie. But anyways, he goes to prison
interesting.
because he at the beginning of the movie, some black guy was like, or these like guys were like breaking into his truck that his father gave him. And his brother like tells him, because like his brother was like, anyways, brother saw him outside and was like, hey, he's like, these guys are like breaking into your truck. And so he goes out there and he kills, I think, all three of them. But
Dang.
the third one, he shot. So the third one he shot, and as he was coming back, the guy was still alive, and he put his face onto the curb and he stomped his face like into the curb. Dude, it was gnarly too, because like it's like
Dang.
a close-up shot of like him like putting his like face on it, and like you hear the teeth like scraping on the
Oh,
concrete.
gnarly.
I'm like, what? And then like it zooms out and it's the shot of him like stomping his face in. But anyways, like he goes he goes to prison, and it's this like moment, like he changes because he's like, okay, I'm gonna like, find the, he's like, I'm gonna find my people, the not like the white people, right? And
Okay.
some of the white people, like white gangs in the prison, are like, they're also like Nazis and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes out there, like earns their respect, goes with them, because it's like survivability thing, because like everyone else around them is brown or black or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he joins up with them, and he disagrees with what they're doing because they're dealing drugs supplied by Mexicans in the prison system. And he's like, why is he doing that? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, that guy's a Mexican. He shouldn't be dealing with that guy. And his buddy's like, he's like, that's just how it is, man. He's all like, the only reason you're alive is because of that guy. And so it's like this thing where he's like, these people are hypocrites. He's like, I'm sticking to my actual ideals.
It's like I'm the only one here that's really racist.
Exactly. Like literally, because the standpoint he's coming from is that the black people the black people and Mexicans are on welfare, and so they're sucking like the communities dry, and that the white people are the ones supplying them, and basically like it's ruining the communities because all these like black and Mexicans are like criminals, and and so we should just keep our communities white, because then we wouldn't have any like, we would have very little crime.
So he believes in the narrative that the black people are the problem because they're the ones that bring the drugs in. They're the ones that bring the crime in. They're the ones that, and so he's like he believes in that narrative, and when he sees white people being a part of the drug circles and whatnot, and he's experiencing cognitive dissonance, that he's like, whoa, this should not be happening because only black people do drugs. Like, that's kind of what it sounds like.
Let's see. Let's see.
Sounds like he is a super Nazi, and the
It's-
other people are just Nazis because, they're mean and stuff.
Let's see. Let me see if I could find the plot point in Wikipedia. Let's see. Okay, so prison. Let's see. Oh, they completely go over the whole. They completely skipped it, which was kind of funny. Okay, but yeah, so it's like he's like, these people are hypocrites, and then he also befriends a black guy who he's like doing the laundry with, and it's not even like a cheesy way, like where it's all like, like almost like Hallmark Channel, like whatever. Like no, like the black guy like immediately confronts like immediately brings out where he's like, yeah, I know you think that I'm like just some dumb nigger, blah blah blah, like um and he's like, that's fine, you don't gotta say a word to me. He's all like, but we're gonna work together because that's our job and this is the best job that you're gonna have here in prison.
Hmm.
And it's like it's a slow like over time you see him like where the black guy
Seeing the
is
humanity in
like
that
he
black guy,
stays
and
silent. Yeah, like
yeah,
he sees the humanity in the black guy. He's like, oh, he's like, this guy actually has like a personality, you
mm-hmm.
know. And then like it gets to the point where the black guy is like actually making him laugh and stuff. And then like yeah, they're talking about sports and all that, and like, oh, I have commonality with this guy, and
Hmm.
oh, and then these neo-Nazi group that I was hanging with, like he's all like they literally rape him in prison. And he's all like, so he's like, they're hypocrites and they raped me. So why am I even with them anymore? He's like, when I'm actually connecting with this black guy who's cool.
Interesting.
And
That
so
sounds
he
like a pretty
gets,
nuanced film then, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, and it was just done so well because yeah, it didn't do like, oh, Nazis bad or whatever. It's like, no, it's like these people believe this stuff because I mean for a lot of reasons, but a lot of it is because they're angry at the failures in our system.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And like yeah, and so it was really well written. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
because
they
ultimately they're not happy with how much crime there is in their community, and it's easier to be like, well, black people tried to like get into my car,
yeah.
so it must be the black people that are the issue. And then you end up going into prison. You see like, oh, even these white neo Nazis um, are contributing to this huge problem. So whereas this other black guy that's in prison isn't. So maybe it's not the like lie I've been told to believe, which is that white good, black bad.
Yeah.
It's actually far more nuanced than that. I like that then.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's
And they like but yeah, these neo-Nazis on Twitter like seem to have completely missed the point of that film because they're just all like they're like, "Oh, they're like, yeah, I'm like this guy from American History X." And I'm all like, "Did you watch the movie?" Like cuz I don't think you're like that guy if you're saying that like because yeah, it's like some racist like meme and then like yeah, I'm like this guy, he's my hero. And I'm like, I don't think you watched the movie, man. Like it's
interesting.
I don't know. But yeah,
I
just
can't
with
make a
the
judgment. Not
yeah,
enough info.
not enough. Yeah, not enough data. It's like but yeah, you know, it's this environment thing where I feel in some way like either the algorithm just doesn't know who I am or they're trying to convince me to be a certain way. Um and I'm like I'm not this person at all. And so I'm trying to train the algorithm to like yeah, show me more fighting videos and show me more like animals getting torn apart videos because these racist memes are like not it. Like they were interesting at first, but now it's just so dumbed down where I'm like I don't even like appreciate like cuz there was like some interesting criticisms like being brought up at first, but I'm like but no, I'm like it's too dumbed down. Like you guys aren't like you guys are just pinning it on the people and you're not pinning it on the ideas that hey, like black communities have been fatherless for a while
Yeah.
and fathers are a strong structure in the home.
Yeah, that's actually kind of like what I was talking about in the systemic side. Like with my dad being up here and not having family support,
Yeah.
like that made it an extra layer harder. And yeah, exactly. Like in black communities, not having a dad be normalized is
Yeah.
like the worst thing that can happen like as your group society because then that means, as a black man, it's okay for me to like not be there for my kids because I didn't have a dad when I was a kid, so, like,
Well, in the 50s and
if I didn't have it,
60s,
like,
yeah.
like, what are you doing? Like, there's kind of that like old school mentality that goes around a lot of times. Like, I grew up without a TV, so like you don't have to watch TV, and it's like, yeah, but things are a little different. Like, I need a computer for my schoolwork. Like, I know they didn't exist when you were around grandpa, but like
Yeah.
I kind of need it now, and like so they don't really see the need because I grew up without one. Like what do you mean, a cell phone in everybody's pocket? Like, we had a party line, that like it rang everybody on the street, so so they don't see a need for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like if you go a couple generations of like, I grew up without a dad and so did grandpa, like it's really hard to be like, well, why is this important? Like, what kind of advantages does it give to your kids that those white kids with dads are having that you're not, because you just don't see a need for it? Yeah, I would say it's not necessarily like the fault of the black community. It's just that, like, how do you reverse that?
Yeah.
Like, it takes generations, and we're still even seeing like man, like people are still alive. Like Joe Biden, Donald Trump lived in the time of racism still being like prevalent everywhere, and
Biden was in office when that was still like,
stuff was still, yeah.
yeah. So
That's a crazy thought.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, no, it's really strange, and I wish I had like at least an idea of how to fix that issue. Um, like, because I just don't know what they like. I just don't even know why that has happened. Like, people like to say like, oh, because they started pumping in drugs into the black communities, which is true. But I'm like, I don't know if it's really like that simple. Like, they like to say like the drugs and the welfare state and all this stuff. And it's like, it's easy to like be against those things. I'm like, yeah, but why did the fathers like leave?
Yeah. I can't remember what book I read that was it Poor Economics that talks about shoot, I can't remember which one it was that I read, but it was like it was like spooky interesting. It talks about how the franchise of like drug wars went, like in these black communities, that it was like the equivalent of like making minimum wage at McDonald's. That's how much these people were making off of like being part of these drug rings.
What?
Yeah.
They weren't even making that much?
No, it was like nothing. But they all knew a guy, like there's the restaurant owner that makes 100,000 a year,
Right.
They all knew that, like, oh, if I become like the street corner guy instead of like
It
the
was a
side
pyramid
alley.
scheme.
Yeah, it was basically like a pyramid scheme, like
Or maybe a Ponzi scheme. But like,
no,
yeah,
no, not a
like,
Ponzi, because that's like fake stuff. The
right,
big
Ponzi
thing
is
was that,
fake, yeah.
yeah, it was more like pyramid scheme where like they all knew somebody that, like, oh, David was in for 5 years,
flexing his
and
bands
he,
of
yeah,
cash
like he
yeah.
has bands of cash, and he rolls around in like a nice car and all of that stuff, and like all these guys wanted to be that guy, so they'd keep working this like dead end job, the dead end drug job, so that they could have this chance of being that guy. And yeah, like I can't remember what book I read. I have it somewhere in my Audible library, but it was like I don't have my phone with me right now. Otherwise, I'd look it up for you guys. Maybe I'll have to pin this stuff in for later ones.
Who was that like
But
crazy famous drug dealer and a rapper named himself after him? It's kind of like crap. Let's see. I'm just gonna do this. 90s drug dealer, uh, and then rapper.
That sounds incredibly generic.
It's no. Let's see. Rick Ross.
Rick Ross.
Yeah,
Okay.
Ricky Ross, because the Ricky Ross is also a rapper now that named
Okay.
himself after Ricky
Rick
Ross,
Ross.
and
Okay.
so
Oh, I see. Yeah.
and so, but he trademarked the name, or like so. Ricky Ross, when he got out of prison,
Mm-hmm.
he heard that there was this rapper named Rick Ross. He's like, "Oh, what?"
The,
And then
like,
like,
the name
and
is
he's all like, and then so he's like, "Hey, like you're using my name." And then the guy's like, he's like, "Oh no, it's trademarked." And like he trademarked it like a day or two after he told him that. He's like, "No." He's like, "It's trademarked." He's like, "You're actually using my name, so you can't use my." He's like, "That's literally my name." And so the guy was forced to change, like not change his name, but he, like his public name
so that
was
he wouldn't
forced
be
to be
associated with that.
so now his like public name is like Freeway Ricky Ross or whatever, because
Interesting.
he like lost the legal battle, but he made these t-shirts um that said the real Rick Ross is not a rapper. And then I think Joe Rogan like made a post about it, and then so he ended up selling out like his whole supply of
Well,
t-shirts and like got like
that's pretty
money off of
funny.
it, and like
I showed you
like
that one of the guy who's on the MythBusters B-roll, and he bought the MythBusters logo.
yeah, dude, that was funny.
Dude, it was
That
so
was
funny, but like, man, I was like ticked that CNN, like, for one, they stole his freaking
They
video,
weren't
and
even
then
mad at
like,
the Mythbusters
yeah,
thing. They were mad at the
well, they kind of were. You could tell because like, because they were
they included
like,
it.
even though we have no legal grounds for like making you drop the MythBusters logo, we want you to drop that one as well as like no using your cum shirts in the
Yeah.
like have the CNN font. I was like, bro, like that should totally be protected under parody.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, it really
yeah,
should.
I could understand like it just being legal hot water, but I was just totally miffed that they made him drop his MythBusters logo. I was like, he bought that fair and square, and then you guys just like are like
Well,
have legal grounds to push him around, so you do.
well,
I was
it's
like,
crazy because
bruh.
like in I mean this is like almost like underground, but in Spawn comics, they have these like different like they have this segment in the comics
Hmm.
where it's just a page and it's like the different news stations.
Oh yeah.
Um and for CNN, it's literally the CNN logo with like an extra line.
I
It's
think
so
I've
it's like
seen that one in some other ones before as
yeah.
well.
And so I'm
And
like,
like,
how is that not getting flagged? But CUM.
yeah, and like
It's
you'll
like,
see all these anime ones where they have Whack Donalds, like the M upside
yeah.
down,
Hmm. Yeah.
and like, yeah, stuff like that. Where I'm like I get that you're like trying to show a similarity, but you're like not trying to offend them. And like, and I thought that was freaking hilarious. Like, it's a CUM shirt.
Yeah.
Like, of course it's parody and it should be protected under parody, but
It should be.
apparently, you know, legal shakedown, CNN was just coming after him hard. Probably because they
Yeah.
stole his video too. So like, so they were like afraid he I don't know, get too much clout or something.
Yeah.
Like,
But yeah, Rick Ross
yeah.
was responsible for like a ton of drugs being like because
Yikes.
I shouldn't say he was responsible, but he trafficked a lot of drugs in because of the
Just has a
I could
large
be
colon.
wrong here, but don't quote me, but it was like because of the CIA, and the
Oh,
CIA was working with Rick Ross to like
whoa.
pump it in, and it was
That'd
like
be crazy.
wild, like literally millions, like millions of dollars worth of weed and like
Dang.
stuff being like pumped in. I'm like, holy crap, that's nuts. And yeah, big stuff during the 90s. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like 90s had some great opportunities. It was kind of my epiphany recently.
Great opportunity.
Not with the drugs, but sure. I mean, not
Yeah.
exactly what I was referring to, but kind of true. Uh, no, I had this like epiphany recently where I'm like, man, I wish I wish I was alive during the 90s, um,
Yeah.
to like be a comic book artist, because like
Oh
and
yeah.
all that stuff,
Some things kind of had their peak. Like
because it
got
was a great time. But
got a
I'm
lot of
like,
live action movies that had some
you
real
know
good ones
what?
back around.
Like, this is the 90s for podcasts,
Yeah, I think
because
so.
we're just like podcasts are just starting out, and yeah, there's a lot branching out, and it's like, and you hear people like, oh, he's starting a podcast or whatever, and I'm like, um I'm all,
Yeah,
and so I think
because
it's
more
easy.
people than ever have free time to listen to it, and the technology available to do it easily,
Yeah,
right? That because that's another big barrier is like you know I'm old enough to remember when the first iPhone was invented,
yeah,
and I am, but like man, back then the brand new iPhone cost $600 and it sucked.
yeah.
'Cause it barely did stuff, so like nowadays though basically everybody has a smartphone, and I think we will reach a point where they're basically completely ubiquitous. Absolutely everyone has them, even like dirt poor, like absolutely broke people have them, because we're kind of at that point, you
Are you
know.
talking about smartphones?
Oh yeah, smartphones, yeah.
Well, they have those like $40 smartphones.
Yeah, exactly.
So
And
yeah,
to have the $40 smartphones be like usable. And I think we're basically about there. Like 5 years ago, a $40 smartphone like kind of sucked.
yeah,
But like we're basically at the point now where even the $40 ones like, have Android, and it's like maybe it's Android, 10 now instead of like 16 or whatever they're on. So it's
yeah.
dated, but it's like, dude, this is pretty darn usable. Like it's
Well,
not like, when you had Android 2.0 on your phone and everybody else was running Android
yeah.
4, and there was a pretty big difference between those
Well,
two.
that's my like, if you want to call it a strategy, is like for buying phones, I always buy like 2 to 3 year old generations.
Mm,
If I were to buy this phone, which is an S21, if I were to buy it brand new, at the time of this recording, it'd be like, if I were to buy it new, it would have been like what, like $800 new, like
mm-hmm.
about 700, $800 new. I bought it for 200, a little less than $200 off eBay,
Oh man.
because it's a few years old, but it's a nice phone. Like, it operates really well. The camera is incredible.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, always just buy a few years old,
Yeah,
and
because
it's fine.
what I've noticed is that like there's kind of certain thresholds for being able to do stuff.
Yeah.
Like back in the day when you opened up Photoshop and it like noticeably slowed down your computer because Photoshop was running and it was eating all the RAM.
Yeah.
That was when, your hardware was really what was bottlenecking you, right? And it was like, well, okay, so when I upgrade computers, I want one that's more powerful, and I want one that's more powerful like the next generation, because, they updated Photoshop and it, eats even more RAM, because now they've got 64-bit processors, and, you can go all the way up to like, you can use 4 gigs of RAM, with the 64 bits. So,
Yeah.
hungrier applications and stuff. And I would say once things got to where about 8 gigs of RAM and um and about 120 gigs of storage space was basically in
Standard.
solid state drives, of
Yeah.
course, was ubiquitous. um Things really got to where like applications run pretty much seamlessly now. Like you like there's a lot of like they're kind of experimenting now with like ARM and other architectures to get better battery life, but it's no longer quite the like battle of like, oh, what do most consumers use? Because there's a threshold where like if it's laggy, people won't use it even if its battery life is 14 hours,
Yeah.
right? But there's also like a threshold where it's like it can game in 8K, but its battery life is like 45 minutes. Like that's not so great either. And I have to say, like the Apple's M1 chipset was pretty groundbreaking, and I know like that's kind of what most companies are chasing for now, where the performance gains aren't really as important anymore. Most people I got my vision corrected, and I really still can't tell the difference between like 1080p and 4K for a lot of things. Some people are like, "Oh my gosh, you what a
It has to
retard!"
be 4K at
Yeah,
60
like,
frames per
exactly.
second.
Like
I'm all
some people are like, I'm like, you must have even better eyes than me. Like I got my vision corrected, and I still can't really pay attention for
I
what the
think
difference
it's
is.
frame rate. I don't think it's even quality.
I would agree. Like 1080p, 60 frames per second
Looks
it is great, but 4K 30 frames per second is not as good to me.
I think you
Like
could tell.
as far as video games go.
I think you could tell on a TV, not on a
Yeah.
computer, but maybe like on a big TV. I bet you could tell.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's still a slight difference.
Oh no, like when I'm watching 4K movies, like, and that's the other thing too, is like I don't have a 4K TV.
Yeah.
So like I can't enjoy 4K movies no matter what. But Talon has a 4K TV, and I'm like it like it only makes a difference like if you have a 4K TV that's that's a 48-inch TV and you're sitting, X number of feet away from it, like I really can't tell a difference. I think long term, if you watch like a ton of TV or you're looking at a screen all the time, 4K is really nice because you get a little less eye fatigue because things are sharper. But like for the most part, like it's not not that big of gains. And like I know some like 8K TVs and stuff have come out, and there's 8K gaming, and I'm like, you're getting to the point where your eye can't really distinguish the difference.
Yeah.
So so instead of going for like these bigger performance gains, which was what we've been chasing for a long time, now they're like, oh man, like what can we do with the battery life? Make that better. And they're kind of changing the direction of it. It'll kind of swing back and forth, I'm sure, because like they're really wanting to get like virtual reality glasses. Things will require a lot more processing power with all of that stuff. But as far as like the utility of a phone, like we're kind of at the point where most apps just work. And most of the time, if it doesn't work, it's probably because your software sucks. It's not because the hardware can't handle it these days. So
That's what I love about frameworks laptops.
oh
is
man, yeah.
we could just constantly upgrade. So like when they do make those developments, like hey, this battery life, like we got this battery that's better. Like yeah, I love the idea of like having swappable parts. I really want to get a frameworks laptop.
Yeah,
I hear they're great.
I like what they're doing. I like being able to like, oh man, I'm so glad that the EU passed that rule that like now batteries will have to be end user replaceable, because man, that ticked me off, because like the internals of a phone will last ages, but those batteries don't. I've got one, like my Moto Z, it's the Moto Z2, and I freaking love that phone. One of the best phones ever made. I'd still use it to this day, except they shut down the 2G towers and it's old enough it requires that. But like I'd still be using that thing. Because it had the Moto mods on the back. You like slap them on, and then you got like a zoom in Hasselblad camera. Slap it on, you got a speaker, slap it on, and you got like a 360 camera. Like there's all sorts of just dope moto mods. I miss the moto phone so bad.
Yeah.
Ah,
Well,
it's like
what was that?
they need to redo it.
Dude, yeah, mods on phones are pretty cool. Like I loved in Civil War how they showed she had a film processor
Oh
extension for her
yeah,
iPhone where she just like snapped it on her phone and she fed the film through to
yeah, to where
view
she
it.
could view it.
I'm
Yeah,
like, I didn't even know that was a thing that was possible. I'm
yeah,
like, that is so cool. I'm like, I'm not even like a photographer or anything like that. I'm probably gonna get into it eventually. That's it's like kind of funny because that's something that kind of runs in our family. Like half of my uncles and aunts know how to photograph stuff, and then even my mom is a pretty good photographer. And so yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna get into it just by proxy at some point. It's
yeah. It's
like
like,
okay, time to like my uncle's in his he's in his early 50s now, and yeah, he's taking photography classes. Um, Man, I don't know how to even add I should probably add a link in this video to this picture that I'm referencing. He has this picture. I love this picture. I downloaded it on my phone. He was down in Arizona taking pictures of the balloons because there were like some balloons or whatever. And he's out where cactus are, and this balloon that has a cactus on it rotated so the picture of the cactus was right next to the cactus. And he's like, I have to get that shot. And he ran to line up the perfect shot before the balloon turned away from it.
huh?
And dude, he got it here. Let me show you. Like, I know I have it here somewhere, but
Sweet.
yeah.
Yeah, cause like, anyway, yeah, that actually kind of reminds me of how things were before. That like, man, for a while they were getting all into like, oh man, digital camera, like getting this stuff, and oh my gosh, that's great.
Isn't that beautiful?
That is a great shot.
I love and the story behind it is just like cool. Like
And it's the same. It's a 3-arm cactus.
yeah,
Or, well,
exactly.
2 arms with the
Yeah, with
center Yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
It looks
exactly.
just like it. Wow.
It's just like perfect moment, like beautifully framed. Just like I
And the
love that.
mountains in the background,
Yeah.
like dang, like
Yeah.
that is a great shot.
Yeah. No, he is just really talented. Like I'm really fortunate to have talented people like that in my family.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is like Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers talks about how you'll see these people that are like incredibly successful and they have all this stuff and a lot of them kind of talk about how like, oh yeah, I did it, and I was successful because I worked hard. But he was like, what do they call it, where it's survivorship bias, right? That like you kind of don't see the ones that like, man, they had the drive and they lived in an era or a time or in a situation where they didn't have that opportunity and they didn't get ahead, and you never heard about them because
They didn't make it.
they didn't make it.
Yeah.
Right.
It's the survivorship bias is the like with the World War II planes
Yeah.
coming back.
It's like,
with
oh,
the
where should we
bullet
put the armor? It's
holes. So
like,
like over the bullet holes.
yeah, it's like no.
Put them over the places that don't have the bullet holes.
Yeah.
It's like
Because yeah, that it can be kind of counterintuitive sometimes, but like a lot of times we don't realize how much our own success is kind of based on like, man, we live in America, like we are not in Ukraine where we had to, like, imagine if you had to like leave all of your podcast stuff behind and basically like get the flip out of here in less than 12 hours because all of a sudden you're in a war zone.
yeah.
Like fit what you can into a truck and get out.
Yeah.
Like would you be posting next week? Probably not. And, like maybe some people might have
my gosh.
have a few things ahead, but man, the fact that we're not in a war torn area, like that's a plus, right?
Huge plus.
And then, the next thing is like, you happen to like live in a society where, we're able to have reliable access to the internet. Like, let me tell you, as someone who did not have access to the internet for like most of my childhood and stuff, like we had dial up that like if somebody rang the phone, like, and
I
the funny thing is
still
at our funny river house, like the old one that we lost, that's still the internet you get out there.
wow.
Yeah.
Dude,
So like
I still remember
yeah.
my mom like waiting for I think over 2 hours just to watch the Spider-Man 3 trailer.
Bro,
Yeah,
ooh,
and
yeah,
it was
that
like
sounds about
it was
right.
like a minute 12 trailer, and I was so because I was so psyched for the Spider-Man 3 movie because Venom was always my favorite. And like I remember I convinced my mom to rent the movie Monster House because I knew that there was a Spider-Man 3 trailer at the beginning before Monster House.
Oh
That's the
man.
I didn't care about
You
Monster
didn't care
House.
about Monster House. You wanted the
I wanted
trailer.
the
What?
yeah, I was autistic as shit.
I
But
am
yeah, no,
hyper focused.
we she found the trailer on YouTube and we waited
Wow.
2 hours for it to fully load so we could watch it.
Dang, yeah.
And
I
that's the
remember
internet.
we
Yeah.
had Netflix back when Netflix was like the discs and you'd order them,
Oh
in the
yeah, yeah,
mail.
yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
OG Netflix.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we had that. So we were here in town now, and yeah, we still had like a 1 megabit per second connection. That was it. And that was the upgraded fast one we were paying through the nose to get, right?
Yeah.
1 megabit per second. We would barely load stuff at all. Anyway, so yeah, we had the mail-in Netflix stuff, which back in the day it was like bundled so that so if you're paying for like the 2 discs at a time sort of thing, you also get their streaming service, So it's like, oh, we'll try it out. I remember watching G.I. Joe. It took us I remember watching it for 2 hours and it'd like load. It'd take about 4 minutes to load for like 30 seconds of film,
Oh, that
and
sucks.
then it'd pause again. And the only thing that we could hook up to our TV that could like stream it was the Wii, which was probably not helping things. Wii was not exactly equipped for Netflix back then. But anyway, so it was just bonkers how long that was taking. I remember watching 2 hours of G.I. Joe. I've still never seen the whole film. Um, yeah,
It just
yeah.
paused on Snake
Yeah,
Eyes'
I
face
like
for
there's like a mental
4 minutes.
block at this point. I'm like, I can't stand that film, like I remember, yeah, exactly. I remember not much of it. There was like a thing where they had some
Channing
like
Tatum has like the mid
suits.
talking face where his like eyes are half closed and it's just stuck on there for 4 minutes. Dude, that sucks.
Yeah, not even kidding. Anyway, it was so bad that I was just like, oh, like no, like this streaming stuff is never gonna be the future. Now we've got like freaking Starlink, and it's got like literally 150 times what we got back then, and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Like, so like, and like, there's kind of things like that where I'm like, man, like that's why like you had kind of said like, oh man, I'd rather like live in the 90s. I'm like, dude, I wish I was born like right now so I'd be growing up like
Later.
later, like
Oh, man.
yeah,
I'm
because like my daughter will be able to enjoy so much cooler crap than like what I had growing up. I remember I would go to school and
Dude, the
ask my
brick
friends.
laptops.
Yeah. Oh man, no. I would ask my friends to like go home because they were like in town where they had the fast internet and
Yeah.
stuff. I was like, could you like look up like how to like because as a kid, you know, you hear all these like rumors and crap. Yeah, and like back before the internet, it was wild. You know, the rumors and stuff you'd hear as a kid. And, like as a kid, the fake news was even worse. Like there was all this crap about how like in Ocarina of Time, you know, the like in Zelda, you could like if you did this and then you did this other thing and then like did this one thing, you could get like black gauntlets. Like
Yeah,
it,
the
it was
video.
it was it was just people running emulators and hacking the game
Yeah.
and they'd like make these fake videos. The amount of trolling that was on the
If you
internet back
go on
then,
Call of Duty and you shoot the corner of this door 3 times,
like
and then you go to this
yeah.
wall and you get this gun, and then you shoot the zombie in the head 4 times, you get the special ray gun. That's how you unlock the ray gun.
Yeah, and
I'm
the
like,
worst part was like there was some like actual YouTube videos on like how to like clip through walls in Donkey Kong and like do some things like that. So like some of it was true, but man, everything like I remember there was this guy like it was like
the Mario.
Fi Joe was like his like YouTube moniker or whatever. That guy, like I remember that dude trolled people. Like it was like it was like these help videos on like how to do this with technology, and I was like just a kid like trying to learn stuff. That guy, I was so pissed at him. I like because he was like just shilling out this fake info, and like it was as if it was totally real. And back in the days, like there was just really kind of no way to like fact check this stuff. So anyway, like I remember like
say,
wasting
like-
so much time on something that I was just like later I was like this guy was trolling me so hardcore, and I didn't know enough to know that I was being trolled. And now the guy actually makes like help videos, like how-to videos on YouTube. They're like real how-to videos. And I'm like that like the biggest turnaround, and I'm like, no, like
You're
I
like,
don't know
I
if
knew
I
you.
can ever forgive you.
I knew you when
just
you were a
because-
scammer. I knew you when you were
Yeah,
fake.
Like you're like you were fake that whole time, and
It's
and
like-
now you're good, and I don't know how to feel about that. Should I
It's
feel
like-
like happy that you're good now, or like
It's like Jordan Belfort
ripped
now.
off?
Like watching the videos of Jordan Belfort now where he's giving you actual financial advice. You're like, you were a Wall Street scammer. You were you pumped the penny stocks. I know you, jerk. And he's like giving actual like sound financial advice.
Oh,
I'm like,
man.
what? Like that's wild.
Diversify. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, what?
No, there's definitely a virtue of, you know, living in the now and enjoying enjoying this time. I mean, you know, I'm obviously I'm running this podcast, and so like I'm enjoying the technology. But man, there is a fantasy side for me where I just want to go back to 1890.
Return to
not
monkey.
1990s. 1990s was also great, but 1890.
1890.
The wild
Ride
West.
horses around.
Ride horses, rob trains. I want to live in Red Dead Redemption 2, man. Except I wouldn't be doing Arthur Morgan stuff. I would just be making a cabin.
The problem I
and
have with it
living
is
out in the
you can't go
mountains.
back. You know, like you can go to the past, but you can't ungo to the past, right?
Well-
Like whereas with our technology, we have Red Dead Redemption, and someday we'll have like straight up Westworld. You can't. Like,
Dude, what if they make a video game about you? Well, they kind of did Grand Theft Auto, but like, what if they make a video game about living in the 90s or living in the early 2000s, like later down the road?
I can't remember.
It's like, this is what it was like to be alive without, like, before flip phones were even a thing, man. Like, what? It's like, you got what? It's like, yeah, you got to download it onto a floppy disk that has 2 gigabytes of memory. Like,
Dude, 2 gigabytes would have been a lot back then.
yeah. Yeah.
Would have been a whole heck of a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
Like-
More like half a gigabyte or on a
No,
floppy disk.
it was like
Yeah, it was like 500 megabytes, right?
dude, some of the ones my mom had, well, granted her laptop was from her college days, but I remember that thing. Oh man, it had all the games, so that it's like My mom had all these
I remember like listening to this.
Chips Challenge and these retro games. Like I'm talking the old Asteroids. Like she had some old ones on her laptop, and it was like the coolest.
I will stand by this. GameCube had the best games for me.
Dude, GameCube had some super solid ones.
I still don't even see this in I mean, I haven't played Forza in a while. Forza Motorsport. Because I think it's actually technically an actual like racing simulator.
Really?
Forza?
Huh.
Yeah, Forza Motorsport. Yeah, it's an actual racing simulator. But I don't even see this feature in this that I saw from Need for Speed Underground. Dude, Need for Speed Underground is still to this day my favorite racing game. And one of the reasons is it had this feature where, okay, so like you could customize your engine, but you could also customize the way your car looked, and you could give it body mods like thick fenders. You could give it paint jobs. You could put tints on your windows. You could put stickers on your windows. You could make your rims different colors and different like types of rims and tires. Like it was sick. Like just I would literally spend hours just customizing my cars on Need for Speed Underground.
Whoa.
And not to brag, but I made those cars look so cool. Like it was. But yeah, I go on Forza Motorsport. It's like, oh yeah, you could have a red Bugatti or you could have a blue Bugatti. And I'm like, what? I'm like, why can't I put flames on my Bugatti? Why can't I put, stripes and electric stuff? And why can't I put different rims? Like, dude. Like,
back in the day, they didn't have that many options for cars. So they're like, how about different paint colors, because really that's just a skin for the car.
The other thing, you actually had like I think you had like I want to say 20 different cars you could like choose and customize. Like
that's quite a bit.
It was like, I mean, I could be exaggerating.
What about Lego racers where you could build your own car?
That's cool. Yeah.
Lego Racers on the Nintendo 64 was pretty freaking sweet.
Lego games knew how to do it right back then.
Bro, yeah. Some of them were super sweet. I think some of the new Lego games can be pretty fun.
I heard the new Lego Star Wars game for PS5 was actually pretty good.
I wouldn't be surprised. The Lego Star Wars games have always been like pretty fun to play. Like they're just kind of like a little kid game. You never really lose.
Yeah.
But man, like Lego Racers was a good kart game. Back in the day, like Mario Kart 64 was freaking prime. I actually preferred when it was like the communist eras of kart days where all the karts really went the same speed, except for freaking like Bowser, Donkey Kong, and Wario had like an extra like weight, like advantage or something in there, because if they were up at the front and you like boosted into them as Toad, you would like spin out.
Oh my god.
Whereas like if you were one of those guys, you'd be like, I'm gonna flatten you, but like all the karts went the same speed. If there was any speed modifiers, I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure. Like they didn't let you see any of it, but like there was always the myth of like Toad's the fastest and Yoshi is like the second fastest.
Have you seen the online Mario Kart competitions now?
Oh no, what?
It is hilarious because because we have the internet now, so people are able to share online stuff. They all have the exact same build.
Yeah,
and it's like I can't remember
because it's the fastest, best handling or whatever,
So it's like Wario and like this specific cart and like different specific wheels and stuff, and it's like they're all the same character, and it's so funny. I'm like, this is stupid.
Well, that's kind of why I liked like I said, the communist kart era days, because then it didn't really matter which character you got, because back in the day you couldn't choose the same character, like it's like, oh yeah, it's against the rules.
Well, that's why I kind of like fighting games, because like Smash Bros. You
Mm-hmm.
have your different the different characters have like different combos and move sets.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get people where they're like me, where they're like, oh, Link's my main, or oh,
Yeah.
Bowser's my main, Kirby, Ike, whatever. Like these,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because they get comfortable with their move sets and the way that they move and stuff. And I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's true. But even in Smash Bros, there's like they have the tier list and stuff, and if somebody's not S tier,
Oh
they
yeah,
rarely ever get brought to like the pro
oh
competitions and
yeah.
stuff.
Well, some of
Because
them get
like,
banned because of how overpowered they are.
oh yeah, that can happen too. Yeah.
Was it I think it was like Smash Bros Melee.
Oh
Meta
yeah.
Knight got banned
Oh
from
yeah. Cause
competition because
or no, that was Brawl because Meta
oh,
Knight
Brawl.
was in
Yeah.
Brawl. Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was Brawl. That Meta
yeah.
Knight got banned. And I
Because
think Ice
yeah, it was
Climbers
something
got
about like how
banned
you
from
could
one of
just
them.
totally juke people and get them trapped and
The little
like
tornado move. It was
yeah,
like you do the little tornado move and then like you do your little fly
cancel
thing
it.
and
Yeah, and
it
like
was nuts. Like and you would just
yeah,
hit them forever until they were
perfect combo
gone.
until they're
Yeah.
dead.
I was like, dude, that's awesome. And then yeah, they now it's online and so they could nerf it in real time. Dude, like I remember when Ultimate first came out. I don't know if this is how it is anymore. The only reason that I know this much about Smash Bros, I'm not even a Smash Bros fan. One of the people I lived with was like a major Smash Bros.
Oh man.
Like I'm talking like he would watch YouTube videos
Hmm.
on like how to do different like combos and different strategies and stuff. He
Dang.
would and like they would practice um and they were like studying frame rates stuff. Like I'm
Dang.
talking like serious about Smash Bros. And like when I watched them fight, it looked like that they were transferred into the game and that they were controlling the characters themselves. That's how good they were fighting.
Dang.
Like they had complete control over the characters. It was nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, when Ultimate came out, Ganondorf's like leg kick was insane. Like there was a meme where it was like what was it? Like it was like 4% and four or like
To
four
40,
no
yeah.
like 40% and 80%, and Ganondorf's like it's the same picture because of just how overpowered. Like he could one hit you with his leg kick at
Dang.
40%, and I'm like that's insane. Uh, but yeah, have I ever asked you the like if you were king of the world question before?
If I was king of the world,
Yeah, like
like
what would you do to like change stuff? Like what would you what would you want to do?
I think that'd be a pretty substantial change. Like now there's one king over the whole world.
No, no,
Suck
no.
it, guys.
Semantics. No, but you know what I mean? Like current events, like just current stuff. Like what would you change about the system?
Hmm. Yeah. That that's a tough question. Um, because on the one hand, there's a lot that that I think I'd like to change, but the issue I run into is I'm just a dude with one brain in my head and I am not omnipotent. I'm like like
Well, yeah, that's what makes
score
the
wise,
question
test
fun.
wise, and things like that. Like in a lot of ways, I, I I have the metrics of being very smart, but I'm smart enough to realize that I could royally f things up.
Yeah.
So one of the things I've grown a larger appreciation for over the years is just how important stability is. So I have to say, like to be honest, if I were the king of the world tomorrow, you would probably not see much change,
Hmm.
at least for like
You'd
10
try to
years.
you'd try to keep things stable.
That would be a large part of it. I would work pretty heavily um, on for one, increasing stability, two, increasing mobility, like allowing people to move from one place to the other. It's one of the things that always ticked me off. Was that oh, if everybody's like happy with one another, like why can't I go to Russia right now, or why can't I, like just show up in Somalia, like why do I have to like
Oh,
all
I
these.
thought you were talking about like public transportation, like trains and
Oh,
stuff.
sure. And well, that's actually a big point too, is I think it's very important to invest in good infrastructure. Um, Trains are really good. Boats are typically a little more efficient, because you don't need to maintain water,
Hmm.
except over the Panama Canal, and like some places you need to go up with water, which is a little harder than just going around with water. Um, but but having really good infrastructure is really important. So I would continue and even expand a lot of investment into that. Um, and yeah, reducing instability is really difficult. It's hard to say how much power and influence I'd have as king of the world. Like, would I be able to be like, stop fighting, guys, and
Well,
like
like,
have people actually listen?
yeah,
Like, ideally, yes,
that's like
that'd
the
be great.
fun. That's the fun with like the hypotheticals. Like you say it, and like it becomes like
Becomes
it just
so.
becomes so.
Yeah, that would be great. Because I feel like the regionalization of the world really contributes to a lot of the infighting and and like the culture of um, racism that we have, like not just like racism against black people, but like against Asians, because you really don't spend time in their culture,
Yeah.
and that's why I would say like increasing mobility is so important. Because like when
Hmm.
I lived in Poland, man, it was a totally different worldview. Like things there are so much more relaxed than they are here. In America, we're like work, 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 and like do stuff. And the people there, like they still need to work to live, but like man, the people there are a lot more relaxed. They seem to have a greater peace with life, and I miss that a lot of times. Being here in America, like Alaska is a pretty cool place. Um, but it is still more extreme than it is over there. They just have a more relaxed way of life. I'm like, man, there's something to learn from that. And then like over in Japan, like there's a lot of attention to detail and organization that I'm like, there's a lot to learn from that. Um, uh, from what I know of China, that um, there is a large focus on their heritage, and it's very important to them to have their long history, and there's certainly something to be learned from that. Um, that there's all sorts of things that kind of tie in, and unless you have exposure to it, you're kind of just not going to know, or
Not
you're going
aware of
to
it.
know secondhand. I think in the book Foundation, by Isaac Asimov, there's this like great scholar who's like compiling like this work of history, and and he's talking to this guy, and he's kind of being snobbish, like the guy's like, oh, so did you go to Traxxas, or wherever this planet is? I don't remember. I'm making stuff up. And the guy's like, why would I bother to go there? So and so wrote about it like 200 years ago, and like he wrote like the best volume of this or that or the other thing. So there's nothing else I could write that would be additive. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason for me to go and gain a firsthand witness and gain my own experience, because this first like this book that he wrote is so
Is
good.
the
So as long as I read
definitive work.
it, I'll be able to write a really good rendition of history.
Right.
And like they didn't even see the importance of it. And I think sometimes are like, well, I saw a video of the Middle East, so I know what the Middle East is like. And I saw a video of these people in Russia, and so I know what they're like. And to some degree, it's better than nothing, But actually going there and actually meeting people and actually having experiences in these places gains you a different perspective. And I think that's really, really important for people, for a true and lasting peace on the world, is having it be a place where people can travel and see different places. Because like to some degree I think that like, man, if everyone like near Israel and stuff like got to see places that weren't a stupid desert, yeah, they might realize like they're fighting over like not the greatest land. I,
They,
yeah, it, like I like, you know, I get that it's culturally important to them and stuff like that, but
yeah,
like I you know, and there's like a whole bunch of animosity that's kind of entrenched in like these people killed my people and now I'm mad at them, and tribalism and stuff like that.
yeah.
But like
Like,
to some degree I feel like a lot of the people that are like, man, I'm just really tired of this warring like stuff, if it weren't for the fact that it is really hard to emigrate from one place to another place, there's a lot of boundaries and there's a lot of like mistrust between nations. And like if I could just slap that and say, stop, and people be good where you're at and you people be good where you're at, and like let's allocate resources where they should be, and you know, be smart about this stuff, and um, then you get a lot of people moving to, you know, the best locations possible, and not a whole lot of people being in these other locations that aren't as great. And I think that would actually long term be better. Um, there's some people that kind of talk about how like in the future we may use actually um less of the world's like land resources than we currently do right now, because we'll be smarter and more efficient about how we use them. You know, like if everyone can have like, you know, cities that actually work good, because there's cities that are good and there are cities that aren't great. Like in Anchorage, Alaska, that is a crappy city. Like one of the best locations like for a city ever. Like right next to the ocean, right next to the mountains, fantastic. Like the arterial highways and the layout, not great. Whereas like in Gdańsk, like man, they had like good public transport through there, and like the traffic could be bad with some of the big events and stuff going through there, but it was like the same size of city.
are you
And
talking about layout of the city?
yeah, like layout and um just the infrastructure. Like you could walk around, like their city center was
Yeah.
enjoyable to be in, right? Whereas in Anchorage, like downtown is a nightmare.
Hmm.
Like I don't enjoy walking on the streets there at all.
Yeah.
And that to me is a big difference, because like if you make it to where
I
you
don't
like
like,
walking around your city, that's a great thing.
yeah, I don't like Anchorage's road system.
Yeah.
With the weird like like the 5 lanes one way
Mm,
like stuff. I'm not a fan of that. I think it's weird. Um, you know, it's a great city to walk around.
where?
Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle.
Seattle is beautiful. I was
Yeah, I
there
really
for
like their light rail. It
yeah,
really is a beautiful city. I saw a lot of homeless people there.
yeah. I
Um,
was there for an 18-hour layover, and I'm like, I am not gonna stay in the airport.
yeah,
So I bought the whatever the $6 light
like
rail day pass.
yeah,
Went downtown Seattle, saw the Space Needle, and literally walked around different parts of
yeah.
downtown. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this area. I saw a movie, whatever. I'm like,
Hmm.
I walked around. I'm like, the buildings are gorgeous. I'm like, okay, I'm done with this area. Went on the light rail, went to the next stop, walked around that area.
Yeah.
Like, and even even some of the light rail stations are stunning. Like
Yeah.
the underground stations where the arches are like going over, just like
Hmm.
beautiful architecture. I love Seattle.
Yeah, I've heard that the metro in Russia is like that too, where like
Really.
inside of those areas, because it was like that book Metro 2033. Like it's like kind of takes place inside of the big old metro lines and stuff. So they've got like kind of a whole civilization down there. It's a pretty cool book. I'd recommend it. Um, but like supposedly those metro stations are like absolutely massive, and a lot of them are incredibly ornate. And I'm like, you know what? Like, if you're gonna build some public infrastructure, like make it nice, make people want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. No, what was it? What was that quote? You quoted it before with Japan. Like, that Japan's CEOs use the public transport system just because
Oh,
it's so good that driving is like
yeah,
inferior to.
yeah, exactly. And like, there's kind of a quote on that it's like a utopia is a place where a CEO rides the public transport because the public transport is just that good,
Yeah.
rather than um, rather than using the public transport because there's some sort of mandate that they have to, right? And yeah, exactly. That's kind of where they're at with Japan. That like if you're trying to get a long distance, like you ride the train because they will get there exactly on time. Like there's a whole thing where like if the train is late, the issue passes. So that when you show up to work and the train is late, like nobody will believe you if you say, "Oh, the train was delayed." You know, you show up
Yeah.
to work, like, unless you have a pass saying, no, here's proof the train was delayed, because the train is never delayed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's so impressive,
Yeah.
right?
And we don't even have high-speed train systems here
Yeah,
in America
exactly.
yet.
Here in America, it's like, whoa.
It's still using it. Do we still use coal? It's still coal-powered trains?
We have a few, like the ones here in Alaska are diesel powered, so they're not coal, but they carry coal.
Yeah, that's another fantasy I had when I was like 19 was I just wanted to get on a train and just like
Trains are so much fun to ride. I love them. Like,
like-
way better than autonomous vehicles.
I'm saying
because-
illegally.
Oh,
Like
hop into a
like a
boxcar.
old-time hobo. Yeah. Like
I too read the Boxcar Children and thought it would be.
dude, oh my
The
gosh.
Boxcar Children was
I
great.
forgot about that book. Yeah, those books were interesting. Yeah, no, just well, I mean, I even saw a TikTok video of a guy, he just like goes out in the middle of nowhere, hops on a train, and they put like old-timey like folk music behind it, and it's him like riding through the mountains and through the tunnels
Dang.
and stuff. I'm like that
Pretty
looks
cool.
awesome. And then I'm like, well, now I'm in Alaska, can't really do that. But in the lower
Yeah.
48s, you could totally do that. Like you could like it's like if you're working a minimum wage job and you're just doing paycheck to paycheck, I would do that. I would quit my job. I would literally
go
quit
on a train
I would
somewhere.
literally quit my job.
You
Sell every
want to
yes.
become a drifter? I know a time frame that would suit you well. I don't want to live that time.
Yeah, 1890s. No. Like what is Reacher?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
Reacher.
actually gonna ask you if you'd like read the Jack Reacher books.
Oh,
Like
dude,
they're
well, the show's awesome.
oh, the show has been
I love
the show is phenomenal.
not
The
the
movie. Tom Cruise, little old, like I'm supposed to be the ginormous Jack Reacher.
And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
no, you're not. Yeah, no, the actor that they got for Reacher is like just
He's
awesome.
a big
Well,
dude. Yeah, and he does great.
Well, he's also really funny. He's done like in the early 2000s, he's done like these like those like college party like comedy movies. There's this one where he's like I think he's a football captain. And it's just so funny. He's like he's all like let me see the condom you were going to give my boy cuz like this chick is all like flirting him up and like trying to get it on with one of the football guys. And she's like, oh, right here. And he takes the condom, like opens it and then like pours beer in the condom and a bunch of holes start spraying out of the condom. And they're just all like,
Oh,
my
no.
gosh. She's all like, I want your baby, get me pregnant. And
Oh,
he's all
no.
he's like, get away, man. Like, it's just so, but like his line delivery is just so funny. Just like, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm not doing it justice, but
He does
it's
great
hilarious.
in Reacher, where, yeah, like,
Oh, his lines in Reacher are so
they're
funny
they're
too.
hilarious. Like, I have had more fun watching the Reacher show than I've had watching the last 3 Bond movies.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
like, I don't know where James Bond kind of started taking a weird turn where, like what happened to the
Well,
the witty comments, like where,
well,
the
yeah.
one-liners, like, gotta have that.
Yeah, the Daniel Craig ones, like, that was the thing. They don't have that,
He had a couple one-liners that I think were good, but yeah, there was
like the
something
Sean
missing.
Connery ones,
Yeah.
like, actually had, like, the witty stuff. Like, there was, like, a fishing one or a harpoon, something. Like, he shot the guy with a harpoon,
Mm-hmm.
and he said something along the lines where he's all like, I think he got hooked. Or so, and like it
was
it
like,
was just like so goofy. I'm like, dude, yeah, like yeah, where's that stuff in Bond? But like yeah, in Jack Reacher, he's all like, the guy's like punching him, and he's getting winded from punching him so much, and Jack Reacher is just like, so, you're upset, like not even like nothing about it hurting or anything. He's just like, so like, I think you're upset.
it's like, obviously, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of the way it's like almost like the guy's like a little 2-year-old having a tantrum, and he's like the adult, like, okay, like, I have a hard time, bud. Like,
Yeah.
that. It's just like, yeah, exactly, the way he just downplays it all makes you,
Yeah.
like, you can tell it's like infuriating to the
Or
guy,
like
and just
before the
like,
bar
yeah.
fight where it's all like, we're not gonna, he's like, we're not gonna leave. He's all like, why not? You didn't ask nicely.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love it. But dang. Well, it's getting late. You want to head to bed?
Yep, I think I will take off. But thanks for having me today.
Yeah. No, it was nice to do this. I gotta start posting more often because all my friends left me and I don't even know why. But no, I'm kidding. No, I have friends. I just got to get them on the podcast. There's a few businesses, and I'm trying to chat up some old friends, see if they want to come on. So, but yeah, no, it's always great talking with you, man.
Great.
All right, see you later.
Sounds good.